For those of you that are joining us, I'd like to welcome you to the Oracle In podcast. And next up on the agenda is talking about Congress and what's going to be going down. And Kevin, I know you're going to, it's kind of funny. We're over here talking about New Year's resolutions and, optimism and everything. And it's like, well, you can't address the light side if you don't address, the dark side and everything that's going to be going down. So
the shit that has happened since those assholes got to DC, their first act of business, the Republicans, right? Because, the Democrats get invited kind of, I guess, but it doesn't really matter if they show up because we don't have, the House or the Senate. So the first thing they did is, well, we don't want those pesky ethics investigators looking at us. So let's turn that one off. And they did that in the middle of the night. There's a meme going around, or was going around on Facebook. It was like, all you need to know about Congress Republicans is their first act. The first thing they did was to hold a secret meeting behind closed doors to gut the Congressional Ethics Office from looking at them. Like that should tell you everything you need to know about our new reality. And, since they ended up backpedaling, and we were talking about this a little beforehand, but, Michael Moore, I saw an interview with him where he was talking about they organized a whole bunch of kind of opposition to actually call the switchboard in DC and talk to your legislature and all that kind of thing. And they just overwhelmed them early on and said, no, you can't do this. And the outpouring, the outcry of, this is not right from the constituency, he credits with actually making a difference and creating an environment where the Republicans had to backpedal and go, oh, maybe people are paying attention, and we look like giant douchebags right now. So
yeah, I didn't get that when I saw that happen. And this can tie into, obviously a much larger conversation, but that's where I am a little concerned, because I can understand being conservative. I certainly understand that mentality and that ideology, but I don't think it's safe to say that it's blanket all Republicans think this way, but that was definitely one shady move. Like, how do you go after an ethics committee to say, like, well, let's not look at our conflicts of interest, because that's where it's basically like, yeah, but what? So we're not allowed to look at how you guys are obviously in power? And it's Democrats too. I mean, the whole Cory Booker thing kind of blew my mind.
Yeah, that's a separate issue. It's not any less fucked up, but that's a separate issue. The fact that this is the first thing they did out of the gate, and everyone's like, oh, well, even Trump was against it. No, he wasn't. What he said is this really the priority to do first? Right? He's not saying don't do it.
Yeah.
He's just saying, guys, there's other stuff you should be focusing on instead of making me look like an asshole. And,
what message are you sending out, though, to your people? Like, I mean, again, to Eric's point, how shady is it? You're trying to do it at 1:30 a.m. Like, what is that saying? And if it's not for people like a Michael Moore or other people who have a status, out there, just imagine if he didn't know, or if this slipped through the cracks for him. This would have went through.
Yeah, and that's why they do it in the morning, right? They do it when no one's there. They call the meeting. John Boehner used to do this all the time, where he would call a session, right, and then say, all right, so just from sight, I can see that we have a quorum here, and there might be 5 guys in the room, and you go, okay, I can see that there's a quorum, so we're going to proceed. And because of the way that Congress works, they don't really need to follow the rules unless people are watching. And once people start paying attention, then it looks real bad because everyone sees what's happening. And they're going through and doing the same thing right now on Obamacare or the ACA. If you didn't know, those two are the same thing. The Affordable Care Act is Obamacare. Obamacare is just a nickname that conservatives gave it to try to make you hate it because Obama, did it, or something. But yeah, so if you're out there, we were talking about, you know, there's people all in the middle of the country that are like, I hate Obamacare. I'm glad I got my ACA. Well, you are SOL, friend. Because both the Senate and the House have gone through and said, yeah, we're getting rid of it without replacing it, including the staying on your parents' insurance, covering pre-existing conditions, all that blanket dismantling is coming. They haven't rectified the bills saying, yes, here's what we're going to send to the president, but both of them are looking at a total repeal with nothing in place.
So let me ask you this.
No alternative at all.
So with the alternative part, though, did you guys see the Paul Ryan town hall? Because that was his version, I guess, of a replacement, where he was saying that basically they want to give out vouchers that are subsidized. So if you need something, and yeah, I guess we could talk about that in a minute, but at least as far as Obamacare goes, it didn't sound like he really had anything in place. It was just more of the way he described it was interesting, because he was saying that basically one of the biggest problems right now is that you have large insurance companies that, and this is worth just pointing out real quick. So the way that insurance works, for those of you that don't know, because I didn't know, and I'm actually glad to hear Paul Ryan explain it the way he did, because it makes sense to me. The way that insurance works is that, especially health insurance, is that if you have the majority of people, let's say in this country, for example, are healthy and everybody's pitching into the pot, then for that much smaller population who actually need that money, who are ill, they have diseases, they need hospital visits, clinics, or whatever, that money can go to pay for them. So in theory, it makes a lot of sense that if the majority of us are healthy, then that money is going to pay for those that need it. And, you know, people will come in and out of that group as ailments come along. The problem that he was pointing out is that when you have large insurance companies who are basically saying that you have a lot of people out there that want a public option, or they don't want to pay for sick people, so it drives up their premiums. And that's why he was saying that large insurance companies are now leaving states where, you know, it's either the government can monopolize insurance or you leave it for competition, which will ultimately drive down the cost. So his argument, it sounded logical. I just don't know if it's practical in the sense of, you know, what does that mean for, yeah, like the guy who was interviewed during the town hall that was saying, like, I had cancer. I had no way to pay for that. And if it wasn't for Obamacare, I wouldn't be standing in front of you. And Paul Ryan is saying, well, we're glad you're here. But then he just works to take away Obamacare because this guy cannot afford it otherwise.
People are going to die. This is not one of those things where, oh, well, you know, people are going to die by the scores. And yeah, it's just, you know, you're just talking shit. Literally, people are going to die when this gets done, because all the insurance companies are going to drop every cancer patient. They're going to drop every diabetic. They're going to drop every pregnant woman. They're going to drop anyone that's going to cost them $1. And all those people are now going to have to try to get back into insurance where they can't get coverage for their cancer, their diabetes. So, you know, the free market idea is what we're going to see, I guess, because that's what the Republicans love to talk about. But it's going to be a giant clusterfuck, and we're going to see a lot of people dead. Hopefully, we can re-look at, before too long, the idea of, you know, expanded, you know, more of a single payer option, where the insurance companies, because if you talk to any doctor, if you talk to most people are going to say the problem with healthcare is the pharmaceutical cost, but it's the insurance companies. The insurance companies are the only they're the only ones making money. I mean, doctors don't get paid a little bit; they get paid a lot of it. But insurance companies are making a ton of money with the system as it is. The reason they're leaving the states is that they're not able to make as much money as they were, which I'm fine with reaching in your pocket a little bit, because, you know, people are going to die over this. It's not a joke. This is serious.
But isn't that part of like the sort of traditional conservative mindset, which is that I am responsible for my family and my security? Why should I be paying for yours?
So that you're not a hypocritical piece of shit.
Well, I mean, that might be easy to say, but
yeah, the first time, yeah, the guy that stood up to Paul Ryan and said, I'm a lifelong Republican. I was against this, but because of it, I'm now alive. Yeah. He had to look himself in the mirror and understand that he was wrong, that without healthcare reform, he was dead. And the Republicans don't get it. Even if they do personally, individually, what they're doing now is it's just, I mean, this is just cold hearted. I mean, this is fucking evil.
They get it. They just don't care. You know, this is, to me, in a sense, this is, they take those parts away, it's murder to me. You know, like, they know the numbers. They all have access to the best statistics out there of doing this. Like, if we do this, what's the worst case scenario that's going to happen? They all know. They're all privy to this information. They just don't care. And I think that was great that that man did stand up and tell his story. But you could tell with Paul Ryan, he was like, oh, that's nice. Okay, well, what I was talking about before, you know, that's kind of what it felt like to me. He was like, oh, okay, well, I'm glad you're here. But let me tell you what we're still going to do, you know? So it's like, oh, you made it. Great, you know? But they don't care, man. And it is sad, man. It does break my heart, man, because a lot of people are going to die. Like you said, literally, a lot of people are going to die. Like,
and it's completely preventable.
So how does that tie in then to the Planned Parenthood thing? Because the way that Paul Ryan was explaining that was interesting too.
Okay, so fuck Paul Ryan, right? He Planned Parenthood, right? Everyone's up in arms about Planned Parenthood because they do abortions. Was it 1971, 1967? So sometime long time ago, it was made illegal for them to use funds on abortions, taxpayer, federal funding,
federal funds,
other than, I think, in the life of the mother's at risk, or something real crazy. So when they're saying, oh, get rid of Planned Parenthood, they're just counting on the fact that people don't understand that federal funds already aren't used for abortion, right? Maybe a little tiny fraction of a bit, but it's more or less outlawed. So what are they doing? They're going after, STD screening. They're going after cancer screening for women. They're going after women's health care. I mean, this is an attack on women, plain and simple. They're kind of hiding behind, oh, it's it's an abortion issue. No, it's not. It never has been. Not since they did the law in the 70s or 60s or whatever it was. I'll look it up so I can.
Like 7% of abortions are done at the Planned Parenthood. I think it's something like that. When they broke down like cancer screenings, prenatal, and all that stuff.
It's a small portion.
Yeah, I think it's even less
for total services.
Yeah, and of that percentage, like less than 1% of that money comes from the federal government, right? Because they're not allowed to do it unless the woman's life is in danger.
Well, I've never been to a Planned Parenthood facility, but the way that and mind you, when I'm saying Paul Ryan, he is the voice of the Republican Party. So when I say that, that's where I'm coming from. But one thing that he said that was interesting was that he said that, the reason why, Planned Parenthood needs to go away is because they want to leave it to the state for state-sponsored clinics. And I've been to a few of those, and they're not exactly top-notch and top quality. So I don't know how that would compare with something like a Planned Parenthood facility. But it just seems like they want to minimize government, and especially in healthcare, and leave that to this, open enterprise market. And I just don't see that favoring women.
It's never worked ever in history. It's one of those things. In theory, you look at it, you're like, yeah, this totally should work. But in practice, it doesn't work. It's like communism. Everyone's like, oh, well, it never works. And you're like, yeah. Well, in theory, it works, but every time we've tried it, it's been under a dictator or a repressive regime. We haven't ever really tried it. So the idea that this free market's going to save us all, we've never really tried the free market. And the efforts that we've made to try to dip our toe in there, you get 2008 Wall Street decimation when you start to try to take regulation off and let people, do what they're going to do. We're going to see the same thing with healthcare, and it's a vicious cycle. People are going to be pointing fingers. No one's going to take the time to actually read anything, and so everyone's going to blame Obama. Blame the black guy. He just left. He's in trouble now. We're going to see him getting thrown under the bus for every single person that gets their insurance cut. They're going to watch. They're going to point at Obama and say, "This is his fault that we had to take this away from you."
On top of that, we do have an impending recession coming. It's going to come. I don't know when, but within the next couple of years, I'm pretty sure there is a recession. Again, I've said it before, there's been 11 since World War II, recessions. And so if you just kind of do the math, within this term, maybe right after this term, or maybe during this term, there will be another recession. I think we talked about that before too. I think it might be the student debt bubble or whatever, but that's coming on top of the healthcare. So this could be a very trying 4 years that's coming up. So we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see.
and I think the important takeaway of this is the writing's on the wall for a lot of stuff, and their first act was to gut themselves, gut the ethics that watch them and how they do things. That was their first act going into this, right? So everything we see coming towards us, that's what they wanted to do first. The next thing they wanted to do was take away health insurance without an option. So I would give them a lot more credit had they said, okay, guys, here's what we're going to replace it with. And, tried to put forward a plan, any plan. I don't care how bad it is or good it is. Put forward here's a plan. But they didn't do that. They're not planning to do that from the looks of it. They're planning to just say, all right, we're scrapping that and we'll figure it out after the fact.
I would love to see some interviews of the Trump supporters, the people who voted for him. With all the information that's out now, I just want to I want to hear from them and kind of feel like, are they still gun-ho, make America great again? Or how are they feeling right now? So that to me, I want to see somebody do a poll or whatever to see like would they do it all over again? So
yeah, because I have some friends that are still like, yeah, Obama's on his way out, and oh man, it's gonna be fucking hilarious. I cannot wait. But honestly, I think that we're in a different time now, and with Congress doing what they're doing, Congress has a lower approval rate than cancer usually, so it's going to be interesting times to see what they do.
That's what it is. So his name is Michael Burry, and for those of you that have seen the movie The Big Short, right, you'll know what I'm talking about. He was the guy that predicted the 2008-2009 financial crash, and nobody took him seriously. But he said that if you actually look at the market without bias and without prejudice and just look at the raw numbers, you can actually see that it's very clear that these things are going to happen. His next prediction, and I think a lot of environmentalists already know that this is what's going on, he's predicting that we're going to see an international recession based on water, that the privatization of water is what's going to basically crash every market that's out there and then create World War III.